R.R. Smith. It just occurred to me that I listened to a video that said the Sea Org quarantines the sick together. I have the idea that they are in a big room like old pictures of sick wards. Are they still doing that? Are they connected to the news enough to quarantine correctly, or will they deal with the fallout instead, and what will that look like? How does the average public look at it? Okay, well, here's what I can tell you about this. I knew this question was going to come up eventually, and here we are. So, I don't know what they're doing right now at Flag or at Pac Base or in the other Sea Org bases in regards to this. I have no inside knowledge. But I can tell you what happened when H1N1, the norovirus, hit the Pac Base. I was on the RPF, and it hit the Pac Base hard. So this was in the, I don't remember exactly what year, in the 2000s, but mid-2000s. And when it hit, okay, so I was on the RPF, so I was already sequestered away from the rest of the base. So I wasn't in on any of the briefings or what was being cited as to what was going on. I just observed what happened. And I, by the way, did not get sick. I was part of a very small percentage. Maybe 15%, 20% of the base, I think, did not get sick on norovirus. It was bad. I mean, that thing swept through Pac Base, and it was a weird disease. It was a weird sickness because you talk to a guy at 1 o'clock and he's running around doing his hard labor and everything's fine. And 3-4 hours later, he's puking his guts out and can't stand and is on his back and is just out of it. I mean, it was that fast that it hit. And it hit hard, and it hit a lot of people all at once. And at first, there were active measures to try to keep such people away, but we pretty quickly realized that it came on so quickly and so devastatingly that you didn't know when the person was actually, you couldn't tell right away, similarly to coronavirus, whether the person was sick or not until it was too late. They were showing symptoms, and boom, then everybody around them was sick, and it spread like wildfire. And so then it was a couple weeks of everybody just kind of coping. There were this is a former hospital. The Pac Base, the Big Blue, was a Cedars-Sinai hospital. So the main building is a bunch of rooms, but they don't have enough rooms to put individuals into those rooms. There's there's many hundreds of people, maybe 1,000 or more on the Pac Base. I never really got a body count. I think it was around 800 to 1,000 people when I was there. Then you throw in all the people over at the Hollywood Guarantee building, many of whom live in the Pac Base. They did do a separation at a certain point, trying to separate out the ranks and the different levels in terms of having them live apart too. But there was still lots of crossover. People get married in the Sea Org, and then people get promoted, and then you got one person in one org, another person in a higher org. And so you'd have people from there coming over at home at night, and then they'd get sick, and or spread it around to the people over at the HGB and vice versa. And it just, so it kind of went through the whole Scientology Sea Org community real fast. And they were not at all prepared for this. I mean, not at all. So what ended up happening was cots purchased, people laying in the hallways of the complex, of every floor of Big Blue. There were people in the bunk beds in the dorms. There were people. There were like sick dorms, and pretty soon, like almost all the dorms were sick dorms, because there were so many people. There was plastic sheeting hung up with tape in the hallways to sort of keep people out. There was a lot of bleach being used all over the place. It was constant, right? There were constantly people spraying, like they were going through every couple hours, if I remember right, just spraying every surface down, right? And this was the lot of the people who were was caring for these people, bringing them food, dealing with them, cleaning it up. Caring for them. There were a few people in the Sea Org who had previous medical experience who were utilized. There were nurses, and I don't remember anybody stepping up as a doctor, so to speak. But there were there were people who were caring for the sick. Nobody was really, I don't recall until after the fact of this, a whole lot of effort being made to try to find out who these people were PTS to, right? The idea in Scientology is that if you get sick at all, it's because you're PTS, a potential trouble source. And that means you're connected in some way or somehow influenced or restimulated by a suppressive person. Okay, a big bad guy, some antisocial in your life, or somebody who's not a suppressive person, but they really remind you of a suppressive person, right? You could have had some bully in the 4th grade who, beat your butt every day and took your lunch money, and that would be, to you, a suppressive person. And so now there's a senior you have who talks to you the same way as that bully did, and so they remind you of the suppressive, and so now you're PTS. It could be that, kind of loose of a connection. Which means, of course, you can see pretty clearly, if you think critically about that for a second, that anybody can be PTS to anybody else at any time for any reason almost. So, this kind of stuff doesn't really hold a lot of water, but this was Hubbard's philosophy, and this is what Scientologists believe. So, there wasn't a lot of attention being put on that till after people were well, and then they were getting interviews and, finding out who they were PTS to and all that. But for the most part, during the main, wave of horribleness that hit the base, everybody was really just trying to cope and deal, and people couldn't keep food down. I mean, it was really scary. And of course, the well people who were not directly taking care of these folks were trying to stay as far away from them as possible, which was impossible in the RPF spaces and pretty much impossible on the base as a whole. It's a tight-knit group. Everything is really close together, right? And the dorms are atrocious. I mean, the beds then and now were stacked up 3-4 high in these rooms. Too many people in too small a space, and that's the Sea Org. So now with Corona, I'm anticipating that they will probably... I'm hoping that there are still folks around there who remember what happened when the neurovirus went down. It wasn't that long ago. And have taken some precautions. The thing the Sea Org has going for it is they are cleaning fanatics. So that, if anything, is probably what would prevent the spread of the virus through the base as quickly as, say, the neurovirus went through, is they will enforce hand cleaning, sanitizing, keeping, they will spray down walls, floors, they will mop, they will use bleach everywhere. They will take those precautions, no question about it, and some of those precautions will help. No doubt about that either, right? So I don't think they're completely divorced from reality. There are people on that base who truly care about all the other people on that base, and they won't want them all getting sick. If for no other reason, it cuts across the income lines. But more importantly, Sea Org members actually do care about other Sea Org members at a human level. So they will take precautions and they will try to keep from getting the disease, but they are hampered by the PTS stuff, the belief that you only get sick if you're PTS, so if you're not PTS, you won't get sick. That's a bug, not a feature, right, of Scientology belief, because they will take chances that they shouldn't because of that belief. I'm not PTS, I don't have to wear gloves. I'm not PTS, I don't have to wash my hands every time I eat or whatever. They're not gonna. You're going to get all that same level of stupidity that you get out in the real world. In the Sea Org especially, you're going to have a lot of victim mentality or anti-victim mentality, where if you get sick or if you're coughing or phlegmatic or somehow there's an issue, you're going to get told, toughen up, pick yourself up by your bootstraps, let's go, we can't afford to have you off post, you're too important, there's too much work to do, blah, 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 blah. So they absolutely will keep people on their jobs longer than they should, and there will be people who will act like martyrs because they think that that's the good moral thing to do as a Sea Org member, and they will overwork themselves. So you get some of that. So I don't know, I hope that they are paying a lot of attention to what's going on. They do have access to the media when they need it, and I hope that they are taking standard precautions. But given the tightness of the quarters and the closeness of the spaces and the interactions that are the Sea Org, I don't see any other, thing except that this thing is going to tear through that base just like norovirus did. But, they could surprise me. So that's what I can tell you about all that, and there you go.